So right around the time when F-Zero for the Super Nintendo was released on the Super Nintendo, there was another game called Super Mario Kart. It was the first Mario Kart game with the title, and it was for the Super Nintendo. It was around 1991 that the game came out. So about like 26 years ago almost. Wow. And so Mario Kart was released, and it was probably one of the best games of all time. I mean, like, you're talking about a game that, like, it was Mario Kart characters racing. They had Mario, Luigi, Yoshi, Princess Toadstool, Donkey Kong Jr., I believe. They had Koopa Troopa. They also had Bowser, and I'm trying to think of the other character that was in there. But essentially what had happened was, was Wario in there? Yeah, Wario was in that game. Anyways, but what was really interesting though is, like, you play all those Mario Kart games, and, like, all the characters and all that, like, everybody was there, and, like, all the different characters, like, there was, like, everybody had their own maps and all that. There was, like, I think there was 15 maps total in Mario Kart, and then there was the Special Cup, which gave you, like, another 5, so there was, like, 20 maps altogether that you could race on. There was like Ghost Valley, there was like a dry desert, there was the Donut Plains. It was kind of like inspired by like Super Mario World. They had Bowser's Castle, they had Rainbow Road, which was the hardest course, obviously. But there were so many different courses to race on. It was really crazy. There was also, what other game was it? Was it, no. What was that? Okay, so, like, you also had, like, Koopa Troopa Beach, or, no, it was Cheap Beach, or something like that. And, like, there's also Battle Mode, you could play with friends and all that. And it was really cool because, like, what was funny was, like, if you got all the items in Mario Kart, and it would, like, result in a draw or something, like, somebody literally had to, like, quit the game because, like, all the items were gone, but you couldn't, like, run into each other to get rid of the, like, Battle Mode wasn't always 100%, like, always ended with one person losing and the other one winning. Or vice versa. But it's like, it's really cool because, like, Super Mario Kart 64, though, like, or Super Mario Kart for the, just Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo was really cool for its time, You had games like the Fire Emblem series, which wasn't released outside of Japan until many years later. Then there was so many other games out there that, you could sit down and play it, and you just look at that and say, like, wow, this is very cool, actually. So, once the internet came out and, you had, like, some way of being able to backtrack and say, oh, hey, look at all these games that, like, nobody even knew existed. And even to this day, some of them are still not translated, which is actually pretty cool, because that gives me, like, an idea. But, like, Mario Kart, though, it was a game that was released to the point where, like, you and I and everybody else, we could sit down and play with 2 players. And, like, there was even secrets in the game. Like, you could shrink the characters down, like, with a lightning bolt. Like, some of the items that were in Mario Kart was banana peels, red shells, green shells. There was also mushrooms. There was lightning bolts. There was a ghost where you could steal somebody's items. Was there another one? I'm trying to think if there was other ones at the time. There was a feather, which I don't think we've seen that. Again, I haven't played the latest Mario Kart games in a while, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I have not seen the feather since the first game. It's supposed to be like you could take shortcuts with it if you timed it right. You could jump out of bounds, and Laticoot, or I forget his name, the guy that rides in the cloud and all that, he'll direct the traffic and all that type of go in reverse, or going the wrong way, or, like, turn around, and here's the, like, he's telling you, like, what to do and all that, like, kind of directing you. He was the racer, and he would always wave the flags. Now, in Mario Kart Super Nintendo, there was 5 laps that you had to go through, and all the other Mario Kart games, like, they eventually brought it down to 3 instead. And if you played the GameCube version, there were, like, some maps that, like, they had, like, 7, depending on how long they were. Like Baby Park for GameCube, for example, it was a like Baby Mario and Baby Luigi's level. It was, there was like 7 laps, I believe it was. But it was like a level that, like, for the if you were really good with it, you could probably beat it within, like 15 seconds, like, per lap. or was it 17 seconds? I'm trying to think, like, I remember my personal best times were like 17:21 or something like that on average. So somewhere around there, like a little bit higher, a little bit lower. But anyways, the idea was that, you know, when you play this game, that the game is about, I mean, there's a lot of replay value in this game. Like, the original Mario Kart, I think it goes for like $30, the original Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo. And I don't know how much, though, if that's the case. Like, it's a good, I mean, it's good to play with friends, it really is. You can sit down and play it, you know, and, you know, it's pretty cool to look back at that and say, wow, that's really cool how Nintendo came out with that, because most people wouldn't, you know, like, for the Super Nintendo, it was, like, for the battle maps, though, for example, like, there was, like, a level for each kind. There was one on Donut Plains, there was a Koopa Troopa level, there was I think there was a Bowser Castle level, too. There was no Rainbow Road one, which kind of sucked. But, you know, they kind of had, like, a different theme is what I'm going for here. And to this day, they still do the same thing, you know. Mario Kart 64, or no, Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo, there is, again, Koji Kondo did the music for the games, and I'm not sure if it used, like, what was known as a sound chip. You'd have to take the game apart to see, like, in the cartridge, like, what's in it. But apparently the game was able to, like, if you actually were to play the original Super Nintendo version of Mario Kart, you would notice that the soundtrack was able to succeed one of the first Super Nintendo games. It was literally one of the greatest Super Nintendo games of all time, man. Like, that came with the Super Nintendo, and it was like, as far as the sound quality goes, it was able to surpass, like, what, like, it was able to do. I'm not sure exactly if F-Zero did the same thing, and it, like, those sound chips that were inside the game. Anybody who makes, like, reproduction cartridges, those sound chips can usually be, like, more than the original cartridges are, if that makes sense. I know, like take Mega Man X3, for example. It's an expensive game, so obviously, you know, making a repo is actually cheaper, but it's like, sometimes it's vice versa. Sometimes making a repo is actually more expensive than the actual game itself. I mean, as far as Mario Kart goes, I think making a repo game would actually be more expensive than you just buying an original copy of it. But my point is this, you know, the sound quality on the Super Nintendo was fantastic. And it was also really, like, some games actually exceeded what the SNES was able to do. So the cartridge was technically more powerful than the cartridge itself, which is actually pretty cool.